way, Miriam, I think, it is good that for Britain can put its sort of flag in out there and say, well, we are different. What would you say, Miriam, is the thing that makes for Britain most different?
That we will address subjects that no one else has the guts to address.
That's a good answer. Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah.
Simple as that. And it's the same. It's the same with all these new parties coming up, David. There's no real passion for the people. It's a game. It's a political game. There's a lot of egos in it. They are all trying to out-ego each other. Winning elections is about them, and they'll do anything to win elections. And they are all singing from the same hymn sheets. They will not say what needs to be said. Immigration is the big one. And these new parties coming along, including Farage's one, they're not going to say what needs to be said about immigration or multiculturalism or Islam. Now, let's not forget, that hasn't gone away. Islam hasn't gone away. It's still there. That's still going. That's still a massive issue.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll talk about it. And I know that that's the case. And the others are just coming through for themselves, and they'll toe the line. They'll say what the press allows them to say. And while nothing gets better, nothing changes, all we have is this game continuing, all for the benefit of the politicians, and none of it for the benefit of the people.
I have to say, Anne-Marie, not that I'm partisan, but I did see Richard Tice of the Reform Party telling us, tweeting yesterday, he'd got his vaccine and he was so happy. He was doing a victory dance in the car park after he got it. What a pathetic sight. And there are sort of tough issues. And going back to law and order that we talked about earlier on, at a time when we saw yesterday the police in Gloucestershire, I believe, harassed an 82-year-old lady for the crime of having a cup of tea in a common space with I think other residents of a kind of care home type thing, sheltered housing. The Gloucestershire police were doing that right now. Your party for Britain has courageously, for a significant number of years, and you personally, Anne-Marie, have raised some of the issues with the incompatibility with the Islamism. And how the grooming gangs and all of that. So here's my question. Where have the grooming gangs been for the past year? Because as sure as hell the police aren't doing it. I mean, they're too busy rapping the door of 82-year-old women at night. So where do you think the grooming gangs have gone, Anne-Marie?
They haven't gone anywhere, David. They're still doing what they do. They've been doing it. They haven't stopped. There's not even been a reduction. Rotherham is still the same, actually worse. I spoke to Jane Senior, who's one of the whistleblowers in Rotherham, and she told me straight, it's worse now than it was. And the reason it's worse is because people think something has been done. So attention has been moved away, and they know this. It's fine. Rotherham's fine now. We can stop worrying about Rotherham. We had a report. Well, we had a report, so everything's okay. It's worse than it was. They haven't gone anywhere. And I call it Islam, David, rather than Islamism. And I do know that
I'm okay with that.
I do get there is a time for the word Islamism, or perhaps for the word Islamist. But Islam it's actually the religion that is the problem. And that needs saying, because it's in the text, it's in the Quran and the Hadith. That's where the problem comes from, and that needs saying. And if we call it Islamism, and it's not in any way trying to contradict or what you were saying, I understand why you say it. Right. But my own position is, if we call it Islamism, it takes the examination away from the religion itself, and we tell ourselves that there is some there's some sort of distortion of Islam called Islamism, and that's simply not true. And I know that I'm unpopular for telling these truths, but it is the truth. It is coming from the scripture. And the problem as well with Islamism is that if you persuade people or agree with people that Islam itself isn't the problem, then you will create the tiny minority of extremists fantasy. And the problem with that is immigration. We will keep the doors open and say it's only a tiny minority of extremists, the vast majority are okay. That's just not the case. It's just not the case. It's the religion itself. And the people bring the religion. And that is how it is.